Alright, so let's take some time to get some practice in using the transparency panel and our opacity mask. We're going to kind of take on this fun little illustration, and what we want to do is add some more life to it. We want to add textures and control how much of those textures that we can see. Just try to give it a more personal look to it. So let's go ahead and start putting some of these textures onto these shapes. So the first texture I'm going to use is this one right here. This is just like a generic background texture that has the look of kind of like a weathered wall, and you can see it's got some good contrast. I got some good light to dark. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose this background. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is copy that, Command C, and then I'll choose this background of the illustration, and I will do draw in side mode, and then do Command V. And there you can see my texture has showed up behind those other layers. I'll go ahead and start stretching this out. There we go. And with my transparency panel open, I'll go ahead and give it a different blend mode. So I'll try screen for that one. Alright, so that one's done, and I'll go ahead and get out of draw inside mode and just go to normal mode. And now I want to add that same texture, but I want to add it onto these two parts of the shirt. Now I want to make it so that these two parts of the shirt act as one object. So if we can remember from the past exercises, we need to use a compound path. So I'll select both of those. So select one and then shift select the other. Go to object, compound path, and make. Now I'll go back to draw inside, click on that mode, and then do Command V because the texture's already on the clipboard, and I'll paste that one inside. I'll size that, and I'll go ahead and change this to a multiply mode, right? And I'll bring down the opacity just a little bit. It's not so strong. There we go, about 50 to 60%, and I'll get outside of draw inside mode. All right, so the next thing I want to work with is this fish skin, so this shape here, and we're gonna have to move some shapes around. I'm gonna actually click on this water shape and move it over here for now. So I'll click, actually I need to make sure to copy this fish scale texture. So right here, click that, Command and C. I'll come back over to the fish head. I'll select that shape, hold down the Shift key, select that shape, and then I'll do Object, Compound Path, and Make. Now that's reading as one shape. I'll click Draw inside, Command V, and now that that is pasted inside, I can start to move that around. So something like that, put a little bit of an angle on there. And now that I have that, I think I'll change it to a multiply mode and bring down the opacity. And I think I'm going to add a clipping mask on there because I want this part of the head to remain that original color a little bit more. So with that selected in my draw inside mode, I'll hit make mask. I'll take off the clip. I'll click inside the mask mode and I'll draw an ellipse over that head. Okay, with my ellipse there, I'll go ahead and apply a gradient. I'll hit G for the gradient annotator and start to kind of move this around. I'm going to flatten this a little bit. I want to be able to see a little bit of that line work inside there. Yeah, something like that. All right, I'll hit the V key when I'm done, and I'll go ahead and make sure draw outside is checked off. And then I need to move back to my transparency panel and choose the regular mode. So get out of the opacity mask mode. Okay, so the last object that I need to apply a texture to is this water that goes inside the fish bowl. So I'm going to come over here to this texture, this kind of like water shade with bubbles. I'll hit Command C, and then I'll come back over to this object, click the draw inside mode, and then do Command V to paste that inside. I'll go ahead and size that up a little bit, and I'll change the blending mode. So let's try multiply again, and that's pretty good. I'm going to actually click back on draw normal and then move this, click outside, and I'll move this back over into the fishbowl. Now I'm actually going to go back and start to add some more refinements to this. So I'll double click, and now that I've double clicked, I'm inside the isolation mode, and I'll click that texture once again, and I think I'm going to try the overlay mode. Yeah, I like that better because that's giving me this blue shade that I wanted. Alright, so I like that blend mode a lot better, but what I need to do is reveal more of the inside of this object or this this bowl of water. So I'm going to select that group, which includes the object and the texture, and I'll go ahead and create a mask. so make mask. I'll take off the clip and I'll choose the mask window, and then I'm going to come over to the ellipse tool and I'll draw an ellipse. This is going to be the mask that reveals the fish head. Once I have it there, I'll release, and I'll go ahead and modify the gradient. So I want it moving from black from the inside to white on the outside. So I want it to conceal the texture and the shape here, and then as it comes out, it will reveal that more. I'll hit G for the gradient annotator, and maybe I'll move this midpoint out just a little bit more, get more of a dramatic effect. All right, I like that. Once I'm done, I'll make sure to go back into the normal window, so out of the mask mode, and then I'll click outside, and I'm going to click that shape one more time, and I think I'll bring down the entire opacity a little bit. All right, last few finishing touches. I want to get some reflections and maybe some little bubbles that come out from that part. I'll go ahead and make a bubble first. So I'll hit D for default colors. I'll switch the stroke and the fill, so Shift X, and this time I will take off the fill, and I'll use my ellipse tool. I'll just draw a circle, increase the stroke a little bit, and I'll draw another circle. Will be the reflection on the bubble, and I'll hit Shift X to switch that stroke and fill, and then I'll group these. Shift Select, Command G. Now I have a little bubble that I can move around. I'll copy this and size it. You gotta be careful not to select the fishbowl behind it. And if I was working more diligently and seriously, I would probably do this on another layer. If you happen to move that water, just hit Command Z. And the last thing I'm going to add is this little reflection in here. I'll just use the pen tool. I'll try to get as close as I can to matching that edge. Select that with the black arrow, put a gradient on it, switch the black and the white, and I'm going to actually make both gradient stops white, but this time I'll make the ends at a 0%. I'll use that gradient annotator, kind of spread that out more, or something like that. Hit V for the black arrow. All right. That's looking pretty good. So that's a taste of actually using textures and the transparency panel and the gradient panel to create this more personalized and tactile looking illustration. So this helps give some life to our work.